Most people think they don't break out because life is harder now. It's much harder now. It was much easier previously. But that's not the real reason. I learned this after a conversation I had in the US that completely changed how I look at struggle. It completely changed that. When I came to the US, everyone kept telling me that same thing again and again and again, that it was so much easier 10-20 years back. 10-20 years back, it was much smooth. Now it's so competitive. So much competitive it is now. The immigration is harder. The jobs are tougher. The competition is higher. People are so much aware now. That's why it's so tough now. And honestly, I believe that. I believed that for some time. This happened when I joined, I came here in US and this was happening. I remember meeting one person. I had a conversation with him and I saw that I was just having a conversation with him and I asked him, what you do? And he told me that, he was working in a reputed company in a big role, in a big tech company, in a big role he was working. And I asked him, how did you get to it? And he shared his experience, how he was able to gain the experience when he came here, climbed the ladder. That's how he, became and is in that position where he was at. And I asked him, when did you come here in the US? And he said, I think early 2000s, 2001 or 2, I think he mentioned early 2000s. And I said, then it was much easier for you. Much easier for you. It was such a less competition. You didn't have any immigration things that you had to look at. There were a lot of jobs which are available. You didn't have to, look at. Now people are so much aware. The studies and the jobs and everything has gotten tough. Immigration has gotten tough. Everything is tough now and it was so much easier. So you got it easier at the time. And he looked at me in the eyes and he said, you really believe that? Do you really believe that? I said, yes. These are the facts. I am not saying some things that, I feel. Most of the people think, and these are true. You tell me, isn't the job market tougher now than the way it was, say, 10, 20 years back? Doesn't the immigration is tougher now? Isn't that tougher now than the way it was previously? Isn't the studies, getting to the schools and clearing the exams and getting those degrees and everything tougher now than it was 10, 20 years back? And life in general, don't you think it's much difficult now than how it was 10, 20 years back? And he actually looked at me and he said, okay, let me tell you this. When I came in early 2000s, I also listened to the same thing. I also believed the same things because everyone was telling me that 10, 20 years back, if you had come in 1990s or before that, it was so much easier. So much easier. No issues with the visas and no issues getting through the schools, no issues related to getting the jobs because it was not too competitive, not too much awareness. So the competition was less. We were able to get through. Then also I saw, that's what he was saying. Then also I saw a lot of people actually, went back. They were not able to sustain the pressure. I said, what pressure are you talking about? He said, just think of it. Now you are able to talk with your family and friends and everything much easier. It was not that easy for us previously. We didn't have all these internet connectivity and, talking. We had to pay for that. It's so much easier with the airlines and everything. It was difficult to get in touch, travel. And it feels nice now. Previously, we used to stay in a different market, some different states, say we are in Alabama or some state which doesn't have so much of Indian population or population from your own country. And he said, because we didn't have that, it felt so lonely at the time. A lot of people were not able to handle that pressure. That's what he was saying. They were not able to handle that pressure. They had to go back. And I don't kind of feel it was that easier because even for us, it felt so much tougher because people who came before us, they were able to get through the market much easier than what we had to go through. That's what he was telling me. And I'm like, okay, this is good to know because he said the phase that happens, like the initially when you come to a new country, he said when you are talking about this because you are new here, after a while you will understand. Now I understand what he was saying, but after a while you will understand that even though the things are tougher, there were few other things which were tougher for us as well. When we came here at the earlier stages, like 2000s or 1990s, those days it were much tougher for us. And he said, if you are in this phase and you feel this way, I know a lot of people are not going to be able to handle this pressure. They are going to stay here. They will feel, oh no, this is so much tougher. I will just go back to India. The job is not great. Let me leave that, go to a different one. Studies are tough. Let me leave that and let me go to a different one. So he said there are going to be people who are not going to sustain this. The pressure is there, but they are not going to be sustaining this. If you are sure you have underlying desire that you want to succeed and you are ready to make those sacrifices by being in US or in general, I am pretty sure, damn sure you are going to do something in your life. I still remember he saying that. And I believed after that, because he was talking about that phase in which we are in when we move to a newer country, or in general when the competition is there. Anything at start is always tough, right? It gets smoother after that. Anytime, like you go for a marathon run or something, the initial phase is the toughest one. Then you are in the moment, you gain that momentum, it's pretty smooth right after that. As long as you are alive in that phase, the tougher phase, as long as you are alive in that phase, it will always feel like it's the hardest time. It's the hardest time. If you get out of it, and I'm not able to do this, and you move out of it, then that's what majority of the people do. There are 3 things actually I learned from that. I was able to push through that phase. I'm glad that I had that conversation with that person, because that really changed the way I looked at that struggle. Not just that phase, but in general, like even now in my life, whenever the struggle comes, I look at it, the phase that comes, I look at it in that way, because it always feels tougher for us and it feels that, it was much easier for someone else. So the 3 things that I think that I felt like, learnings, takeaways from that phase was: difficulty is not the problem. It may be difficult now in some aspects. In some aspects it will be difficult, but it's not that the problem. The problem is not that. The problem is the commitment. Commitment is that problem. If you are committed, you will be able to achieve something. You are able to achieve something if you are committed in doing something. And that's what he told me, and that's what I actually felt great that, something I listened to him at that time. I still remember that conversation, because after that, anytime the difficulty came, I thought that, I need to be committed to this to push through. Number 2, most people quit at the first discomfort itself. And the first discomfort comes, they are like, oh, we're out of it. I'm out of it. I don't want to continue doing this. That's what their kind of way of action is at that time. And then they come out of it, and then they see a lot of people who are successful and thinking, how come he is successful and not me? How come he, went ahead in his life and how I am not there? Because they just look at that successful person, but they don't understand that he pushed through that discomfort and you are out of that discomfort. If you are ready to sacrifice and fight through that discomfort, you would have been fine. But you have to remember this. If you are trying to push through that discomfort, you are doing great. Majority of the people don't do it. This was number 2. Number 3, breakouts require staying longer than your comfort. Breakouts require staying longer than your comfort. What do I mean by that? If you want to break out, achieve something, you want to, break out from the norm. A lot of people who are achieving it, there's so much competition. If you have to break out of it, that has to be longer than your comfort. If you are trying to go back to your comfortable situation, this is my comfort zone, this is where I want to go back. I don't like this job because this is a problem. I'm going to my comfortable position. I don't like these studies, that's why I'm going to my comfortable position. I don't like this country, or something happened, that's why I want to go back. In a small thing, right? If you are able to push through that and try to stay away from your comfort, I think the breakouts happen at that moment. People don't fail because the world has got harder. People don't fail that. They fail because they leave too early. if they had to fail, if they had to push through, and if they keep on going, the life gets much easier after that phase. But the problem is because they leave too early. That's what I have seen for a long time. Even during education, just think of it. You are doing a marathon. Initially, it's tough, and most of the people will just back out of it. Oh, this is not cut for me. I know you have to practice, but you just back out of it anytime it gets tough, not realizing that if you just push through it for some time, you will be much better, because it gets much easier after that harder phase. If you are going through that phase right now, or if you have gone through that phase, please share that in the comments, because it would help someone else who is reading those comments, because these kind of phases, the hard phases, come for a lot of people. I think everyone goes through it, but the way we handle it is the way that define where we go, the path that comes after that. So please share that in the comments.